ultimately you have this picture of the enemy coming to destroy. Christians are saved, but the fire purifies the city, purifies the old covenant.
Okay.
The new, effectively. In other words, destroys the old, but brings about the new. It's all apocalyptic language, which you're just never going to understand if you try and read it literally. Obviously, we know Gog and Magog are symbols or words for things in this, and they, but they're not literal things. The Battle of Armageddon. Well, it's a symbolic battle for the end of the old again, where the old will be destroyed.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's written in language to help people who were not Jews understand, and people who were Jews to see what was coming. Because remember, this was written as a warning to get out of Jerusalem, not to stay into Jerusalem.
Yeah.
But it's written, it's all sorts of different language, They came up upon a broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the beloved city. Well, this is language which is designed to say this is the old city of Jerusalem. This is the city, but actually the city was going to be destroyed. The old covenant was going to be destroyed, but it's using language here to help them decide. Now, obviously, it's a warning. Matthew 24 was a warning. Luke 21 was a warning. They were warnings that Jesus gave. But I think, we've got to be careful to read it, not trying to think it is talking about the end of the world. Jesus said it was not going to happen at the end of the world, the end of the age. There's a very big difference between the word for age and the word for world. But it's often translated that because it fits in with a futurist perspective. But it's age. Aeneos is age, not world. But, I understand people will have all sorts of their opinions about it. And you could go arguing about it for years. And people who don't have revelation of what it's referring to are going to stick with their thing. I mean, I used to believe all that. I believe this was 1,000 years that was coming in. Jesus was going to come back on earth and reign for 1,000 years. And the church is all going to be taken to heaven. And this was all talking about Jewish people, because Israel was going to be the earthly people and the church were the heavenly people. Now, all of that was based in the same deception as the rapture teaching, millennium teaching, Zionist teaching, all came from Brethren teaching, which created dispensationalism in the 1820s to 30s through John Nelson Darby, which they became Plymouth Brethren. And they came up with this system, which was eventually used in American seminaries through the Schofield Reference Bible, who had a lot of notes which were based on Brethrenism and dispensationalism. So the millennium was a dispensation that was to come at the end of the world. Well, nowhere does Jesus teach that. And nowhere else in the Bible. It's only in those few verses in one apocalyptical symbolic book. And yet we've developed this massive system of belief. Then looking at Old Testament passages which are talking about, symbolically talking about the new covenant age, and then applying it to this period where, the lion would lie down with the lamb and all this stuff. Well, yeah, we're talking about essentially there would be one new man in Christ. There would be no divisions, no separation between Jew and Gentile anymore, which is what Paul taught. One new man in Christ, not dividing an earthly people into a heavenly people. That's completely opposite of what Paul taught in Ephesians 2. There's one new man in Christ. The middle wall of partition is removed. There is no longer alien from the commonwealth of Israel. No, everyone is now one new man in Jesus, who is the Israel of God. He is the fulfillment of all the promises of God. They're not to be fulfilled in an earthly people. They're fulfilled in Jesus, and we are included in Jesus because we're in him. included in him and everything he's done to fulfill all the promises of God as the seed of Abraham, to bring the blessing to all the families of the earth. All the families of the earth, not just one family of the earth, but all of them would receive the blessing of the gospel preached beforehand to Abraham, which was all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Well, he wasn't talking about literally blessed through Abraham, but Abraham's seed, who is Jesus, who is the seed, not seeds. So it's not talking about figuratively literal offspring of Abraham as physical people, but the seed of Abraham, who is Jesus, which is how he's described as the seed of Abraham in Galatians and in Romans. That's Jesus. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.